Hello, my name is Michelle Cederberg, and I think some of you probably met me when I spoke was it December or November, on stress. And now I am still coming to you from my spare bedroom in Calgary. I want to talk about future-proofing work and life, and it's quite kind of ironic that we're going to be talking about future-proofing strategies while we're using every technology possible to make this happen. So in this room, I've got 3 different cameras and 4 different lights and all the fun stuff. And then you're on your devices watching me, probably with your device in hand. Maybe you've got extra screens set up. We all know we can't live without technology, but in many ways, it is changing us. And so I created this presentation because we know that technology is not going away. And I think given that, we need to learn how to live with it better. And so this, in about the next 45 or 50 minutes, I'm hopefully going to get you out of here by the top of the hour. We're going to talk about the confluence between technology and personal wellness. And I'm going to share some really interesting statistics and some reminders about why we need to be a little bit more cognizant of the technology that is around us. So what does it mean to future-proof productivity and work and life? We're going to talk about the rise of digital in all parts of our lives. We're going to talk about the cost of 24/7 distractedness, because this is happening. We're going to talk about balancing distraction and wellness. We're going to talk about the health factor that drives success and what it really means to future-proof. Because let's face it, the world is demanding more from us than it ever has. We're being pulled in multiple directions all day long, largely driven by technology. So at work, it's emails and text messages and online meetings and AI. And at rest, at home, it's with our social media, it's with 24-hour news cycle, it's with our games, it's with our videos, it's with all the things that we do to disconnect. And while it can seem like a great thing in the moment, we soon start to feel the malaise of technological overwhelm. So in the chat, I want you to put just the kind of feelings on how technology impacts your work and life, the use of it, good, bad, or indifferent. Just put a word or 2 in the chat. Tell me what you think of the rise of tech in everything that we're doing day in and day out. Don't be shy. While you're doing that, it's a time waster. It sure is. Too much, overwhelming. Yep. It makes it hard to disconnect and get true breaks. Yes, we're going to be talking about that. So easy to get distracted by the new email coming in. Too much information being shared. All of the above. We fixate too much on it. Yes, we do. More screen time versus client time. We're going to be talking about all of these things. And I know that we can get up in arms about the infiltration of all things digital and tech in our lives. I call it techno stress, because it doesn't seem like we can connect from it. It adds to our chronic and acute stress, and just it's a 24/7 tech-driven, FOMO-fed, can't miss out, go, 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 always connected, digital overwhelm stress. But I also want to make sure that in talking about all this stuff that we look for the good within it, because I know that it's there, and it'll help you make better decisions about how you choose to integrate technology and all the things that you do. Sharon's saying that I see both sides, very positive uses for connection and learning. I can spend too much time on news. And I think that's most of us. We see the good and we also get sucked in. And Mackenzie says, once it's set up, it's my digital brain. It makes life so much easier. And that's absolutely true. And so I want you to think about it in that kind of yin and yang, good and bad sort of way, because the reality is that it's not going away. But I do want to share some fairly interesting statistics. And I will say this, I prepared this probably last week for another client, and these numbers are probably already out of date. All right, it's 20% work remotely at least part of the time. I think that number is probably higher now. 77% of businesses are using AI, could be higher now. 85% of households, 85% is the number of households that subscribe to at least one streaming network. Now that's on the personal side. In my house, it's more than one, because we add on the next Apple TV or Disney so we can watch the next Star Wars one, and then we forget to cancel it, and then, we have more than one. 74% is the number of Canadian homeowners with smart devices at home, and that's your TV, your fridge, your Alexa, any of those types of things. I want you to really think of 74% of Canadian households talk to their refrigerators and their televisions. I just got a TV that I can talk to. I find it very convenient. Over 20% of the global retail sales last year were made online. I definitely think that number is higher. And if you think about our lives pre-pandemic, most of us didn't think about ordering online nearly as much as we do nowadays. Yesterday, I ordered a pair of black shoelaces, and I would have run all over the place prior to the pandemic trying to find black shoelaces that are 46 inches long. Tell me that I'm not the only one. 1 billion people across the planet are utilizing wearable technology. That's your Apple phones and or Apple watches and your Garmin devices. 3 billion people across the planet are gaming in some capacity, whether it is your online gaming or on your phones or all the big stuff. All right. 67% is the global average using internet, mobile phones, and social media. Think about that. 67% of the world is connected using the internet, mobile phones, social media. Now, this next number I find quite staggering. Tell me what you think about it in the chat. 60%. This is the percent of web traffic that is actually human. 60%. That's the amount of web traffic that is actually human. Now, you think about that. It means that not only are you absorbing everything you're taking in from the internet, but now you have to decide, is this a bot? Is this a real person? Yeah, Andrea, it is terrifying. 85% of adults in North America own a smartphone now. Now, if you consider that the first iPhone was released in New York City in 2007, we're talking less than 20 years, and 85% of us have some sort of a smart device. It's our number one daily distraction, and 90% of people believe their cell phone is their largest distraction. 150, this number represents, now I want you to really think about times the average person checks their phone every day. That's basically once every 6 minutes. And I want you to hear that, once every 6 minutes. And there's a whole bunch of research, an increasing body of evidence that suggests the time we spend on our smartphones is interfering with our sleep, with our self-esteem, with our relationships, with our memory, with our attention span, creativity, productivity, problem-solving, decision-making skills. Our brains are changing. And so 150 times a day, every 6 minutes. And most of us will twitch when we don't know where our phone is. The last number on this is 2.5 hours, and this is the time spent per day on social media. And I want to be very clear, social media is defined as platforms that enable users to create, share, and interact with content, text, images, videos, and other content. That can mean you're texting images back and forth using your regular email or messaging, which means that you don't have to be on social media to be sharing social media. And 2.5 hours, like if you think of all of those numbers, that is an inordinately high amount of time every single day that we spend connected. And I'm not trying to be a harbinger of doom, but I do like to share the numbers because technology has become so commonplace in our lives that we don't often think about all the little different ways, the touch points in our lives where we're connected. It doesn't even, I don't even think about it now when I pick up my remote and say, Golf Channel, press the button and ask for it to go to the channel that I want. And it's taking up our brain space. And I'm going to share this because I don't know how much time I spent on the internet looking for these things. It's like, your smartphone thinks you're so great, huh? But can you do this? And this is interesting because it's a whole bunch of younger generation that is choosing the featureless phone to not be connected, which is fascinating because there's an equally probably larger part that can't separate themselves from it. How about this one? This is so much fun. Most of us will spend too much of our days scrolling. And the last one I have to share, just because it just seems to speak to the whole problem. There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere, says Buzz Lightyear. If you can relate, then put a heck yeah in the chat. So here's the deal. Technology is so deeply woven into how we work, play, communicate, shop, and interact with the world that we fail to notice its true impact. That's why I share the numbers. That's why I'm creating this presentation, because we have choices every day about how we utilize, benefit from, and rest from our technology. I will say that much of the technology that we use at work, whether it is ChatGPT or your computer or your programs or whatever it might be, seems to have a little bit less of an impact in the long run as our devices and our social media and our personal side do. Here the screen just came on. I'm like, oh, I need to look. Precious, right? We love our devices. So let's look at the reactions that our body has to excessive use, shall we say. The long-term effect of cell phone use or distraction or addiction to devices, it's proven to change our brain's reward system. And so I want you to think about that. As we pick up our devices, the dopamine receptors light up. They get all excited. But the more and more we use them, we're decreasing our general mood and reducing the ability to sustain focus. And if you look at all of the things on the screen in front of you right now, if you can relate to any of them, then put a comment in the chat, because I'm just looking at the chat here. We're going to be talking about fight or flight and dopamine disruption and cortisol increase in a moment, but memory impairment, poor posture and muscle tension, social disconnection, poor focus, poor decision-making, tech neck. There's a whole bunch of physiotherapists who are making a mint, helping people, and young people, I will say, solve their neck issues. Fatigue and eye strain, increased anxiety and burnout, prefrontal cortex overload, reduced attention span, irritability, malaise, relationship stress, moodiness. Sounds like fun. And there was an article in the Globe and Mail, I think, recently that was, or it might have been BBC, that was talking about how university students have lost their ability to, think creatively because they're using AI so much. They don't have the same capacity, shall we say, for creative thinking, and their learning has changed. Poor posture and muscle tension, yes. Reduced attention span, yes. Increased anxiety, moodiness, yes, yes, yes. And I think the first step is to recognize how our usage makes us feel. We sometimes just push it to the side, but there's a real physiological change going on in your brain and your body as you take up all of this technology. And I want to explain that now, because it's kind of mind-blowing. So we have multiple hormones that come through the body that kind of light us up and keep us going. Most of you are familiar with dopamine as the pleasure and reward chemical. And when we engage in digital activities like social media, gaming, or binge watching, it triggers spikes in dopamine in our brain, and it creates a cycle of craving and short-term satisfaction. So the more likes or messages or new content that you tap into, the stronger the dopamine reinforcement. Now, so you open up your Instagram and you're looking at the most recent post, and if you've got lots of likes, all of those dopamine pleasure centers are lighting up and they're going, oh, look at us go. And usually the more novel or different the responses that you're getting, the more dopamine kind of gets happy out there. And then the second one is cortisol, and we're all familiar with this. We talked about it in the presentation I did in the new year, or before the holidays, is your stress hormone. So when you're experiencing digital overwhelm now from all of these constant notifications and information overload or social competition, because you've been scrolling on Facebook and all that kind of stuff, your brain interprets it as a stressor. So what was once good becomes not so good. And and that increases your stress hormone cortisol. And then chronic stress disrupts your focus, your memory, your emotional regulation. And you can see all those spots lighten up in your brain. So cortisol and dopamine are having a dance party all day long, and it's not a fun one. They're probably, in the mosh pit, bouncing up against each other, causing stress. And here's what it looks like. And I want to talk about each of these levels, because number one, the apps and the platforms basically are designed to hook the neural pathways in your brain the same way that gambling and addiction does. So when you drive engagement, oops, got to put something on the screen here. There we go. Number one, dopamine drives engagement. When you go into the apps and all that stuff and look through all the social media channels. Number two, cortisol rises with overload with the endless stream of notifications and messages and information. The stress causes that rising cortisol I was talking about. Number three, when you have the constant dopamine cortisol battle, the dopamine rewards feel less satisfying. So it means that we're clicking more and we're trying to increase our digital consumption to get to that place of kind of mental pleasure once again. And then the last one, if we keep on this cycle, which we tend to do every single day, remember I said you're checking your phone every 6 minutes, high cortisol impairs the concentration, and that reduced dopamine sensitivity makes digital activities less rewarding. So when the mind is overloaded with digital inputs, the brain enters a state of constant overstimulation and dissatisfaction. And here I go being motivational once again. But I want to share that because I don't think that we always understand what's going on in our brain and body, because I can sit down with my device and kind of feel that of scrolling, but then eventually it feels like a lot. This is what's happening. Cortisol and dopamine having that battle as you go through all your devices, or even your work at the office. Somebody was saying they got through their emails. That can be a big dopamine hit, and then more come in, and there's your cortisol. I wrote about it in my Success Energy book in chapters 3 and 4. And it's something I've been fascinated with for a long time, because when we are trying to be productive, when we're trying to have a happier, healthier work-life balance, we need to be present. And what happens when we are fighting with all of the technology is that we can often jump into autopilot. And the way I define autopilot is making unconscious automatic decisions that don't necessarily align with how you want to work and live, which means you put your head down, you do the work, you're just kind of taking things on without really thinking in any given moment, am I doing the right work on the right things right now? Autopilot allows us to kind of get through the day, but it's not necessarily the direction that we always want to be heading. And there's a great deal of research that's been done on autopilot. One of the studies that I read about in the UK suggested that up to 92% of the respondents in that particular study said that they spent all or some part of their day on autopilot. And I don't need to ask you whether that's true of you, because most of us will. Even if it's the drive home or the drive to the grocery store, and we can just get there without really even thinking. It can be walking to get coffee at your favorite place. It can be the order of operations for getting ready in the morning. Now I could ask you, like, what's the order of operations? Do you brush your teeth first, or do you get dressed first? Do you have a shower? Like, what's the order? You'd have to stop and think about it. But I guarantee you, your order of operations is probably pretty much the same thing every morning, whether it is right sock first and then left sock, underwear, t-shirt, pants, whatever order you dress yourself. And that's how we get through the day. Now, here's some interesting research. I am a big fan of facts. So when I'm looking for research on certain things, I want to find the actual source of the original research. And I tried hard with this one, but I still think there's some merit to it. So I'm going to explain it this way. I said, according to various sources on the internet, that's my research, we make upwards of 35,000 decisions a day. I'm going to let that land for just a second. 35,000 decisions every single day. And you might be thinking it's not possible. But the reason why I think there's some merit to it Let's break that down. It's about 2,000 per hour, 2,000 decisions per hour, or one decision every 2 seconds. You just made another one. You just made another one. You just made another one. And you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what you're talking about, Michelle. I'm just sitting here watching you. But you're deciding whether that statistic is true. You're deciding what you're going to have for lunch. You're deciding if this is a good presentation. You're deciding what you might do at the end of the day. It's all happening in there somewhere at a subconscious level. Because what ends up happening is when you've got all sorts of things to do in your day, your brain is going to select what parts of your day it gives its full attention to. And so the mundane and the routine and the ordinary and the rote all get pushed into the subconscious, where, you know, to basically free up bandwidth so you can get on with your day. Your ability to think about what isn't happening at any given moment is a cognitive triumph that allows you to be, helps your day run more smoothly. And I'll say this until it doesn't. Because when we get busy, when we get stressed, when we get distracted, it is very easy to get pulled off course because we want to get stuff done, but we don't always work on the right things because we're just on that path moving forward, and I don't have time to stop and assess. So in the chat, just give me a little yes or no. Do you think that you spend some or part of your day on autopilot? Yes or no? At the end of this presentation, just as I did last time, yes, absolutely, yes, 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 yes. You and me both, all of us. And I'll say it's not a bad thing because autopilot is a way for us to manage our day. And we're meant to dip into autopilot at times when our brain is a little overwhelmed. But we don't want to be operating full time on autopilot. So at the end of this presentation, much like I did before, I'm going to share a QR code, and you will be able to download it to get some extra resources. And one of the things that I'm going to share is my assessing autopilot exercise. And I'm going to share the questions with you right now, and you can kind of do a mental check, but at the end, you can download it and some extra questions to help you kind of move out of autopilot. So as I say these questions, you can decide on a scale of 1 to 5, is this not at all true of me or very true of me? And there's only 12 of them, 16 of them. So I'm going to do this real quick, and you can do a mental check or you can write it down. But you will also be able to go and do this at the end of the presentation on your own. But I want you to pay attention to the types of things that are on my autopilot assessment. My daily routine is predictable. Is that true of you? Very, not at all true of you or very true of you? I do not look forward to the day ahead. I start my day by checking my device. I cannot leave my device alone. Is that not at all true of you or very true of you or somewhere in between? I'm often stuck in my head. I do things without thinking. I'm not good at delegating. We'll talk about why that is one. I say yes without pause. Is that not at all true of you or very true of you? My success path feels stalled. I procrastinate the good stuff. I do not have time or energy for fun and hobbies. Is that very true? Not at all true of you or very true of you? I don't know what's important to me. I have not tried something new for a while. I often run late. I often feel time crunched. I often feel stuck. Now, none of that is really related to technology per se. But I think there's so much of it that is an indicator of how we conduct ourselves in our general lives that can point us towards autopilot behavior. So I want to talk about what that means, whether you are on autopilot or not. But I am going to reiterate, when you have the opportunity to go and do the assessment, then answer the questions at the end, because that's where we get present with how we are moving through our day, if you will. And I'm a big believer that the remedies for future-proofing work and life are simpler than we think. And a lot of it just has to do with mindfulness. And when I talk about what does it really mean to future-proof, I want to talk about what you're doing for yourself. So when you're feeling that overwhelm of your digital life, the question to ask yourself is, how do I want things to change? as a professional speaker, I have an annual event every year, our annual convention, and it's usually in December. So this past year I was at my event. It's at the end of the year, so it's a nice chance to check in with how the year's gone and make goals for the future. And that, as I was sitting in a moment of quiet between sessions, I was feeling like I had not been using my time as well as I could. I travel a lot. I get on planes every other week or every week. And so at the beginning of last year, sometime around March or April, I was sitting in an airport and I was kind of bored, and I'm like, I don't want to read anything that makes, that's work related. And so I downloaded a game onto my phone, something around merging. I think it was Travel Town or something like this, because that's going to make me a better person. And if any of you can relate, I found myself, I thought, oh, I'll just play it for a little while and then I'll leave it alone. But as I said earlier, our devices and our games and our social media are designed to hook the neural pathways in your brain the same way that gambling and addiction does. And I found myself going back to that game and going back to that game and going back to that game because it was hooking me. I ended up at one point realizing I was spending upwards of 90 minutes a day going back and forth to that game, spending real money on fake lives. And if you can relate to that, it's insanity to the nth degree. And at the end of last year, I said to myself, I can't imagine how much more I might have been able to accomplish, or how much more brain freedom I might have had if I've chosen not to download that game. And I made the decision in that instance, what do I want for myself? I deleted the game. And I started meditating, practicing meditation, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes every morning. 2 little switches that help me get focused and present. And so I asked the question, what does that look like for you? If you feel the overwhelm of technology in your life, what are the things that you can do for yourself to separate yourself from it a little bit, knowing that it's not going away? So here we'll talk about addressing autopilot. And if you have any comments, you can always put them in the chat, because I'm curious about what people do. The number one tactic that I think every single person should deploy is this one. Number 1, wake up mindfully. And as a health and productivity expert, as a coach who wants to help you ignite high performance, I'm usually going to be at some point going back to how well you're taking care of the physical body and brilliant mind in it. We overlook this machine that we live in, even though it is what is creating every bit of output and creativity and connection and work and success in your lives. And the first thing we do when we wake up is reach for the device beside our desks or beside our bedside and use that as our entry point into the day. And the research has changed. I've got to look for the new number, but when I was looking at it a while back, it was something like 86% of people will check their phones before they even get out of bed. But I think that number is higher. People will say, well, I need my phone by my bed because I need my alarm. And that's not a good excuse, because there's this thing called an alarm clock. But if you have to have your phone by your bed for safety or for being on call or whatever it might be, don't use it as your entry point, because the moment that you reach for that phone, the outside world is going to hijack your day before you've even gotten underway. You're going to check the emails, you're going to see some message that's come in, or you're going to read some news, and you haven't even had a chance to check in with yourself. So if you do nothing else from what I'm about to share, check in with yourself before you check in with the world. Do that favor for yourself. Leave the device unchecked, at least until you're in your kitchen pouring your first cup of coffee, at least until then. Give yourself that break. You can put a heck yes if you agree with that. That waking up mindfully gives you the opportunity to set your intentions for the start of the day. So I will lie there in bed, wishing for more sleep or whatever it might be, but I'll lie there and go, oh, I slept okay last night. These are the things I'd like to accomplish today. I feel like I can, it's early enough, whatever. I have a little check-in with myself, scan the body, and basically talk my way into the day, setting my own intentions, not being guided by whatever was in my phone. Set your intentions at the start of the day. Number 3 Shake up your routine or try something new. When we get stuck on autopilot, we will tend to not try new things because it takes too much energy and effort. We're too tired and stressed and stretched. We've got too many things to do. How can I possibly fit in one more thing? And we don't allow ourselves novelty in our lives. So we end up feeling that malaise. And usually it is because we're stuck on that autopilot routine. It can be something super simple, like walking a different way to work, or trying a different class at your gym, or trying a different smoothie at Jugo Juice, or whatever it might be. Shake up your routine. Silly and simple, yes, but sometimes we just have to shake it up. It could also be you're going to, rearrange your furniture, or do renovations in your home, which so many people did during the pandemic, or cleaning up your office, which I'm in the midst of right now, just so I can get a fresh perspective. But shake up your routine, try something new. When we get too busy, we stop doing that. If you're feeling the overwhelm of autopilot, it's also really important to disconnect from the phone and connect with people and connect with nature. I think every single one of us has had a time in our lives where, and it could have been yesterday, where you're sitting across the table from a loved one or a good friend, and you're trying to have a conversation with them, and they're, yeah, okay, yeah, no, yeah, oh, absolutely. What'd you say? And you're getting kind of half or a quarter of them because they're here. Our relationships are being impacted by these. One of the things that I'm trying hard to do in my family, I don't have kids. I have a husband and a dog. And, in the evening, sometimes we'll watch a show, and I will often be guilty of watching the show, but also having my iPad open on whatever it is I'm scrolling. And my husband, it drives him crazy because, like, did you pay attention to that? Did you hear that? Because I'm not going to rewind it. And so we get into these little tiffs, shall we say, because I'm multitasking and I'm not fully present, not only to the show, but to him. So pay attention to that. Connect with nature. There's forest bathing is called Shinrin Yoku. So you're out in the forest, you're walking, you're breathing it in, you're hugging the trees, you're just connecting with the vibration of nature. It's a thing. We will always feel better when we get outdoors. And you can read about that in the book if you're interested more. Clear the clutter, change your surroundings, shake things up. It's a different version of number 3. When we get busy, we'll kind of let things pile up. That's been me in my life, and now I'm trying to do some late spring cleaning, and it's helping. Move your body in ways that energize you. Do things for yourself, movement-wise. If you don't love going to the gym, then find something that does appeal to you, whether it's a walk outside or riding your bike or taking a dance class. When we are moving, I'm a mountain biker, I'm a biker, cyclist. I got many bikes, no kids. When I'm on my bike, I have to be fully present. And if I'm on a single track on my mountain bike going down a steep hill, I'm fully present. I can't be on my phone. I can't be scrolling. When we are moving in our bodies, usually we can't be connected to our devices, and so it gives us a chance to connect with ourselves. Do less waste activities per week. So waste activities are that game that was on my phone, the social media, some television programs, some people, some meetings, the things that when you're in them, you're thinking, this is probably not the best use of my time. We all have time when we want to be kind of just sitting staring into space, but we all know when we've spent too much time in the game or on the social media or doing the things that aren't helping us get our to-do list done. A little bit of time is okay, but a lot, not. I love that. We call that double screening in our house, and I hate it. Yeah, my husband hates it too, and I'm working on it. It's this second last one here, create, make, play. When we get busy and when we get stuck on autopilot, we don't try new things, and we also give up a lot of the things that bring us joy, whether it is art or music or building or gardening or baking or cooking, whatever it might be. But when we're in those things and our hands are getting dirty, when I'm up to my elbows in my garden, again, that phone it's not, I can't use it. And you do disconnect from it. When you get away from it, you realize how much you don't need it for that period of time. My phone got drowned in the 2013 floods because my husband and I went mountain biking on a pathway that didn't used to be underwater. I slipped and fell into the water, got quite wet, got quite angry, and I made a mistake of turning on my phone before putting it in a bag of rice. And of course, it didn't work. It fried it, and I had to then replace it. And Tella said it'll be 5 days before you get a new one. And I kind of twitched. How am I going to get through life without a full cell phone? I think some of you would be of the age that I am, where you recall having to go home and press the button on the machine of your phone to find out if anybody had called. And we also then had that wonderful invention where you could phone in, put in your code, beep, boop, 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 and then you'd hear it rewind so you can hear your messages. At that time, we got along just fine. I don't know how we did. I think back to it now. But I had to wait 5 days, and I thought I was going to not make it. But by the third day, I was really enjoying the not being disconnected. And by the fifth day, I was sad to see the phone arrive. And it really made me realize just how much the devices pull us in and just how much we sometimes don't need them. The last one on here, of course, is detoxing from digital. And I'm never going to say get rid of it. It's just not our life these days. I do occasionally have people in my audiences that legitimately don't have a cell phone, and people who are choosing the featureless phones or don't carry them with them all the time. My mother has a cell phone. She's 91, and she uses it to play solitaire. If anybody can relate. But let's talk about digital awareness, because I think this is the key. We can make choices every single day about how much technology of any sort infiltrates. And let's face it, we're connected in every capacity, as I suggested at the beginning of this presentation, so much so that we don't even fully realize just how much. So, number one, declutter your digital tools. Now, if you take a look at your phone or the desktop of your computer, you probably have, dozens and dozens of apps or programs or whatever, icons on your screen, and you probably don't know what half of them are. And so if you're not using them, get them out of your eyesight. Just get rid of them, put them somewhere else, or delete them entirely. Just, sometimes we download them because we're going to try them and then we don't use them. But if you're not using them, get them out of there. Just get rid of them. Use AI and tech wisely. Another text. How many of you, by a show of in the chat, just put a yes if you're using ChatGPT or some other AI program. Just put it in the chat. The thing about AI, it's fascinating, terrifying, fascinating, and it is absolutely a game changer, and it can be deployed in many ethical and useful ways to help minimize our workload for things the mundane things. And it's wonderful for research and all the things like that. But it can suck you in, boy, oh boy, if you've gotten sucked into ChatGPT, learning and playing and all that stuff, boy, you can spend hours in there. So use it all wisely. Set timers if you have to. That's usually my go-to. And if you're using AI a lot in the work that you do, then consider getting someone to teach about it, how to use it effectively and how to use it ethically and wisely. I will always ask, if I'm doing research using ChatGPT, I will always ask, please cite the sources, and it'll list them there for you. And then you can look and see whether they're legit. But yeah, use AI and tech wisely. Prioritize essential apps. So have one app for your list, have one app for your scheduling, have one app for your, emails or messaging or what have you. Try not to overload yourself with multiple different versions. I know that's harder to do on social media, where people will be messaging you from LinkedIn and from Instagram and from Facebook and whatever. But if anybody ever messages me through those apps, I usually just say, please email me at, and I give them my email address. Not always easy. Sometimes there's more work in decluttering. All right, next one, manage your email and app notifications. Turn all of them off. You don't want the beeps and reminders coming in at every darn moment, because every time that it does, that dopamine fires up in your brain and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to see what's happening. I got to see who's liked. I've got to see who's emailed me. I've got to see who's messaged me. And you're losing whatever focus on whatever task you are doing. It's gone. And it can take upwards of 25 minutes to regain focus from a task that you lost because of some kind of inconvenient interruption. Set specific times to check email messages and social media. Now, I will admit that email is a hard one for me. I'll check it, whenever I pick up my phone. But the social media, I will usually not do during the day. I'll often, if I post an Instagram, it's in the morning. And if I'm checking LinkedIn and that kind of stuff, I do it once every single day when I find a chunk of time, trying not to go in and out. Easier said than done. But one of the things you can do, embrace the do not disturb modes on your smartphone and your computer. Learn the settings. Anytime that you need full attention, you don't want anything buzzing, then go into the settings, set the do not disturb, and then ideally put your devices somewhere where they're out of sight. Because even if you are meeting with someone and you've got this device on the table beside you, even if it's turned downward, you are going to notice it and it's going to be in your view and it's going to distract you. And eventually you're going to be reaching for it and wanting to check it. Precious. Right? We love these things. Put them away. It's amazing how much we can get along without them. Where are we? All right. So one of the things that I'm a paper person and I always have been. And as I kind of combine my two worlds, I'm missing paper. I like to write things down. I like to have a paper day timer where I can see everything, but it's also very convenient to have a schedule that's online. But going analog can be a really good thing for getting creative and strategic and productive and all those things that are going to help us kind of enjoy work more. So use a physical notebook every now and then when you're trying to do good work. I just want to talk about this because going analog can enhance focus and reduce digital fatigue. So that's a known fact. If you use a physical notebook instead of a digital to-do list, it helps minimize distractions from notifications and the urge to multitask. However, if you're ever looking in a paper magazine and you ever do the thing where you're trying to make the picture better, you spend too much time on your phone. Writing by hand also engages the brain differently, reinforcing commitment to tasks, boosting clarity, and actually helping things imprint into memory. Because when we think about things and when we write them down, it gives your brain enough time to move those ideas from short-term memory into long-term memory, where they'll hang out. Deeper learning and creative thinking, mindfulness and stress reduction by using a physical notebook. Brainstorm on a whiteboard. Do this with your teams. It can definitely enhance the idea forming when everybody can see it right in front of you. Read paperback books with pages that you actually have to turn. I love my Audible. I have many books on Kindle because I can't own them all. But there's nothing more rewarding than sitting and flipping pages in a book. And there's been instances where I've listened to a book on Audible or purchased it on Kindle and then had to buy the paper copy because I wanted to go in and make marks and flip pages and all that kind of stuff. Read paperback books. Create no tech zones. So in your office, if you're having meetings, do you have to have your device with you? I don't know. I don't know if you do. At your home, at dinner time, or even with your colleagues at lunch, can you go tech free? Our brains need a break, and here's what happens. Of course, I've got to speed up here because I've got to get through all this stuff, and I'll come back to this part. I'll come back to it. Engage in hands-on tasks. Use your hands. We talked about that. Taking care of yourself. Pay attention to how you're feeling, and this is one of the acronyms that I use a lot just to check in. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? This is a coping mechanism that 12-step programs use. But when our coping mechanisms are down, we are more likely to reach for the things that are going to distract us, to make us feel better, for the hits of dopamine. So take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, listen to your body and give it what it needs rather than, the false energy or friendship of the device. Break better. And this is the part where I want to talk about, because most of the time we will spend our time in front of the computer doing our computer work, and then we feel like we need a break. And so then we'll pick up our phone and we'll scroll our phone, and that's not a break when we go from screen to screen. But there are 3 different channels that we spend time in. Hold on a second. 3 different channels that we spend time in. Oops. Okay, go ahead. This. Go. 3 different channels that we will work in. So there's physical work, and that can be the construction or a letter carrier who walks 15 kilometers a day, or a healthcare professional who's lifting and carrying and moving. We do a lot of emotional work, and certainly in some of the work that you all do with one-on-one clients and in your care, there's a lot of emotional. It can be meetings, it can be interviews, it can be presenting. It's the coaching the one-on-one coaching that I do. When you're kind of in it with someone, there's an emotional energy drain that happens from that. And of course, there's that cognitive work where you're at the screen, where you're thinking, writing, processing. When you are working in one of these different channels, you need to break in a separate one. So you can't go from cognitive screen to cognitive screen. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Because this is a game changer in terms of listening to your body and giving it what it needs when you are in a busy workspace. So if you're in that physical space, you want relaxation and fuel and conversation. And I have movement and screen time in asterisk there, because when you're working physically, movement might not be the thing that you need, but what you might need is the opposite. So if you're walking a lot, you might need to stretch. And if you're lifting and carrying, you might need some cardio. And then screen time, I always put an asterisk, because there's better ways of taking your break. If you are working in that emotional realm, an emotional break might be relaxation, fuel, conversation, but the right kind of conversation, separating from the work, talking about what you're going to do on the weekend, what you're looking forward to, rather than, gosh, that was a tough meeting and boy, we've got some things to do, and staying in it. Movement, screen time. The screen time, of course, because you haven't been on your screen, is acceptable, but again, we can get pulled in, so it's not always the best. And when we're working cognitively, the breaks we want to take are relaxation, fuel, conversation, movement, and ideally skipping the screen time. Listen to your body. If you're working in one channel, you need to break in another. Pull out your phones now. There is the QR code. I'm always grateful for your feedback. Always grateful for what you liked and what you didn't. Please let me know. Always grateful for referrals. If you know people that might be interested in the work that I do, you're going to get a copy of the Assessing Autopilot exercise, including some questions. You're going to get a video on future-proofing productivity. You're going to get an article on 10 tips to reduce stress and reclaim focus in work and life. You're going to get my Mesh for Health mini book. And if you were at my other session, you got that last time too, but it's still there because I think we need the reminder. And there's a few other things. So go on to there. I'm always grateful for your feedback. I'm going to give you just a moment before I switch to the final slides. And you can put it into the chat when you're done. And if you can't access the QR code because, for instance, you're watching this on your phone, then jot down that URL, http://talk.ac/Michelle Cederberg, and then put in the code FutureReady, and you will get access to the feedback. Some weird messages coming in. I got to take a look at here. Excellent. Done. Thank you, Sharon. Hopefully this has been helpful. I often do this as half-day workshops because there's so many other areas to dig into. But I think the important thing to recognize is that we have a decision every day about how we connect with our devices. If you missed the QR code, there will be one at the end again. This quote by Gretchen Rubin kind of spoke to me. Turn off your email, turn off your phone, disconnect from the internet, figure out a way to set limits so you can concentrate when you need to and disengage when you need to. Technology is a good servant, but a bad master. We need to pay attention. And I say this in almost every single presentation, but when stress is mounting, or when you're feeling the overwhelm of your digital life or any aspect of it, just remember that you have control over this one at every moment of every day, no matter who's sitting with you, no matter what's in front of you. And I can't tell you how many times I could find myself with my device in hand, realizing I've been holding my breath because I've been reading something tension-filled or whatever it might be. Just breathe. And when we slow down long enough, you can call it a mini meditation if you want to, but when we breathe regularly, or if you meditate regularly, it improves your brain function. It increases your hippocampus thickness, which is the part of your brain that's associated with memory and learning. It decreases the amygdala size, gray matter. So there's less stress creating in your brain. Increases attention span and self-awareness, decreases blood pressure, decreases age-related memory loss, increases emotional health and self-confidence, decreases stress, increases sleep quality when we breathe. All right. And this last quote from Albert Einstein, think about that. It was a while ago. Kind of speaks to it. The human spirit must prevail over technology. I wish I know what year he said that, but it speaks to the fact that technology has always been a part of our lives since the industrial age. And as we move into this technological and AI age, we need to be more present than ever to the impact that it's all having on us. In your workplaces, have conversations about how you want to be with your technology, whether it is device-free at meetings or device-free at lunch or whatever it might be. So have those conversations and increase your own personal awareness about how you want to show up with the technology that is in your life. So I'm hoping through some of the things I've shared here in the last hour that you're going away with some fresh ideas about how to be more present for yourself and for the people around you. No double screening in my future. There's that QR code again. And on that QR code, if you have any questions at all, you can always email me. You can email me via the one that's on the screen, hello@michellecedarberg.com. If you've got questions, you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those wonderful places. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.